Hello and welcome back to the Entertainment Vortex. Today we were at Brendan Theaters watching Onward. We saw some trailers for this one before it came out. Honestly, I don't think that a minute and a half, 2-minute trailer could have captured all of the emotion and the different aspects of this film in the way that they're presented, because this packs a lot. Pixar is very well known for taking something super accessible like animation and turning it into something where there's something emotionally impactful for just about anybody who sits down in front of it, regardless of if it's something that's super close to home or if it's something that you just empathize with, making it something real and believable even though it's something completely fantastic. Once again, I feel like they've done a really great job of building that block and being able to put something super real in such a crazy fantasy realm. It's super impactful. Like, it does a really great job of making you emotionally invested in what the characters are doing, in their journey, in what they're able to accomplish, and the connections that they make along the way. All of those things, they shine through very well. The story itself is very well put together, and while there are a few things that are a little predictable, it is a movie that in and of itself is somewhat made for children. It doesn't have any fault in that particular regard. There are things that are predictable, but it's not in a bad way. The way that it's presented and the way that it's portrayed make it strong and make it something that, even though you know what might be coming, you're still impacted by it nonetheless. Voice acting performances are very excellent, led by Tom Holland and Chris Pratt. Their dynamic works so well together. That's something that doesn't necessarily always come across in voice acting, specifically because most of the time it's a person standing in front of a music stand with a script, standing in front of a microphone and talking to a group of producers rather than talking to their fellow actor. I don't know if they were in the same room together at any point in time during this, but it felt like they were having conversations with each other. The dialogue works super well for it being a movie that has this emotional story of a lost parent and about trying to close that gap and getting their one opportunity to really, meet that person. The bond between the two of them, it just works so well, and having it kind of wrapped in this D&D-esque kind of fantasy realm, it's just something that hits a super sweet spot for me. While it is, like I said, it's an animated film that is in part made for children, it is something that is meant for more so the kid at heart, I would feel. Someone who's into tabletop games, someone who's had to deal with things like the loss of a parent, having a strained relationship with a sibling. Like, those are things that, while they work for younger people, they also really, really work for young adults. I think that that's something that Pixar just has in spades. It's not like it says a whole bunch of things that are meant to go over the head of a small child. It presents things in a way that just makes sense for everyone. The animation is absolutely gorgeous. It is different, and I don't think it's their most technologically insane offering up to this point. Obviously, something like Coco definitely stands out in my head a little bit more when it comes to something that is just like a visual spectacle. This does a really great job, and it is a smaller scope type of picture than something like Coco. Having a smaller cast of characters and being able to focus on those characters was definitely something that was a little bit of a change of pace from something like Coco or even something like Incredibles 2, having that larger cast of characters. This is definitely more focused on your main characters and then the small group of side characters around them. While the score does a really good job, and they have these really great beats that kind of tie to this high fantasy, almost kind of like Iron Maiden-esque type of music when it comes to the scenes with Chris Pratt's character, I don't really think that it's something that's super crazy to write home about, like when you have things, I hate to keep bringing it up, but like Coco, where music is such an integral component. I feel like this is more of a background than it is a character. And that's not necessarily a problem. It doesn't take anything away from the movie, but it is something to note. If you're going in and expecting this to be some crazy musical, that's not the case. You're not going to get that type of an experience. It makes up for it in what you do end up getting, which is, like I said, it's a beautifully crafted story. The gags are super funny and super relatable, especially nowadays when things like role-playing games are such in the forefront as compared to how they were in the 80s and 90s and even in the early 2000s. So I feel like this is another one of those moments where Pixar just really has their finger on the pulse. I mean, you look back at Incredibles and how close that was to the big boom in superhero films. And I feel like this is kind of getting out ahead of what could potentially be a trend. Role-playing games are bigger than they've ever been. And being able to take that and put a super engrossing story wrapped inside of that veneer, it just worked really, really well. We sat down and we discussed and we dissected it a little bit after we watched the film. There wasn't a lot to gripe about. I mean, there were a few continuity issues that were noticeable, and they did kind of slow your thought process down a little bit. It's like, oh, hey, that doesn't necessarily work that well. A call over a radio and then people just happen to show up almost immediately. It doesn't work, but you're still able to get past it. It doesn't affect how great the ride is. And in this instance, the ride is beautiful. I would definitely say, highly recommend it. Sit down, pay whatever money they ask you to pay for it. It's a great film. For me, it's gonna be a 9.5 out of 10. It has that one little gripe of just small continuity errors, but the way that it's crafted, the way that it's acted, the way that it's told are very impactful, and I think that most people will enjoy it.
If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. We give you multiple videos every single week. And we have t-shirts available if you're interested in those as well. Those are available down in the description below. We hope you'll follow us into the Vortex. We'll see you next time.